ahead, Dan.
I'll make sure I get Jen in this.
No, no.
Yep.
No, no.
It's not a short meeting tonight, right, Pam?
Yes, should be.
We shall see.
All right, if we're ready to start, since it's 6 o'clock, welcome everyone to the November 21st Finance Committee meeting. First of all, I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes from October 17th.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, approved, thank you. Next, we're going to talk about the 2023-24 budget timeline. And I'll turn it over to Dan, I'm assuming, since I'm not sure what the answers are yet.
So as we kind of get into budget season and discussions and starting to pull whole schedule together, wanted to share this. So Judy, I'm sorry.
No, it's no problem.
Here. This is currently the draft timeline, kind of subject to change based on where we end up with finance committee meeting schedules as we move forward after the reorg. I just wanted to end, based on Alan very nicely pointed out that January 16th is Martin Luther King Day, and so we'll have to reschedule that. But as we, this is to kind of give us a base, kind of schedule as we move forward. I know that last year we had to insert a couple additional meetings to make sure we got through all of the topics, and so based on that, to try and prevent from having to do that again and add more meetings on top of meetings.
I love meetings.
I know you do, but we're trying to keep it to the normally scheduled meetings. The timeline is basically starting in January, because I think last year we started more in February. So by moving this back a little bit, allows a little more time to do this on our regularly scheduled meetings. One thing that you'll see here in any conversations regarding salaries and benefits will be kind of subject to where we are with negotiations. So that might be a little fluid as we move forward in negotiations. That's going to have to move later into the conversations and later into the deadline.
Okay.
I have President's Day on the 20th. I'm just all over this
Yeah,
as far as scheduling.
Those
Chuck slide today.
No, it was very discreet. I just don't take it as discreet. I just put it out there.
Maybe we
So
can make them Tuesdays instead or something like that.
That's what we've done.
that's
Yeah.
Again, I think on the agenda on the 5th, you'll see we're firming up the workshops and the regular board meetings same, and then we'll kind of wait through the reorg, and then we'll get, if there's any changes. We're all happy if meetings want to start at 5 o'clock. That's a win for anyone that's doesn't want to be here past 8 or 9, but
Yeah.
different conversations anyway.
Okay.
So, as I say, we're going to have to tweak these because I don't pay attention to federal holidays apparently.
Yeah.
You just
work.
That's what it is.
We appreciate it.
I personally don't have any of them off, so.
This is just to kind of show kind of work through where we plan on being through the budget process. You'll see January 12th, the opt-out resolution. And so our stuff all the way down to our final budget approval down in June. So definitely subject to change. A couple of things are changing. Just want to put this on everybody's radar. We're working through the timeline, what's going to work, what's not going to work. Like I said, as we move forward with negotiations, salaries and benefits, you're going to have to shift down further, but we'll be able to shift up some of the other areas of discussion.
Sounds good.
The reason that's always, I like having that up front is because it makes up essentially the largest portion of the budget, so I think it should be at the forefront.
Yeah.
We could always touch on it in pieces, if we want to take salaries, benefits, as it relates to everything other than the collective bargaining unit. We could do that. That way, at least we're still talking about salaries and benefits kind of throughout the entire budget process.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. Okay.
So then still sticking on budget and moving into the preliminary budget and opt-out resolution. So historically, well, recent past, we've opted out. We've done the opt-out resolution to essentially ensure that we're not, basically to the state, we tell them that we're not going to exceed the Act 1 index. So I'll go through this. So if approved by PDE, the district may seek, without voter approval, an increase above and beyond the Act 1 index in a couple of instances. So the revenue raised above and beyond, in our situation, 5% with the adjusted Act 1 index. If that isn't enough to cover certain expenditures, we're able to essentially request an exception to the Act 1 index and without going to a referendum. As long as then also the revenue that's generated by that increase is used for specific expenditures, and those expenditures are grandfather debt, electoral debt, special ed expenditures, and retirement contributions. Really only two of those are applicable to us. That's the special education expenditures and retirement contributions.
I was gonna say, I never even heard of electoral debt.
So essentially, that's where we are with, the grandfather debt would be, and I think it predates like 2006.
So none of our
It-
bonds are back far.
We've refinanced pretty much everything that would have been, that predated that. So nothing would qualify under that exception. And the same goes for the electoral debt. So we're really looking at the special education expenditures and the retirement contributions. So we went through the estimate spreadsheets and work papers that PDE provides, and it basically is looking to make sure that on a comparable basis, if you're taking year-over-year increases, that from 1 year to the next, if the, in our situation, 5% adjusted Act 1 index wouldn't cover, that 5% wouldn't cover your additional expenses in those particular categories, you may qualify for an exception in one of these, in one or both of these categories, the special ed or the retirement.
So what is that, about 1/4%? It's not much.
It's not. And so based on the special ed expenditures, when we work those up, right now it's like 139,000, but they're basically estimated work papers. You don't know until you actually go through the process of doing the preliminary budget, which, as a former board member has said, is basically the made-up budget, which it legitimately is. It's a situation where to create a preliminary budget, you're putting something out there to say, this is what we think is going to happen, and by the way, it's November, so
So why not?
it's meant to be extremely conservative. It's kind of forcing you to be that way because you can't then exceed it. So if you go to PDE and say, here's our preliminary budget, and it's $74 million, and then when you go through the budgeting process, and we're doing, we have negotiations going on and things like that. If when we get all said and done, we needed 75 million, tough. You told us the maximum that your budget was going to be was 74. So by default, when you're doing a preliminary budget, which is different from your proposed final budget, which is back in May, trying to keep all the terms straight, you're essentially forced to make it extremely conservative. So you'd never come in and say it's 74. You'd say we need 79. Even
Right.
though we think that there's not a chance in the world that you're going to need 79. So it is a essentially made-up budget to be biased toward the conservative side. The whole point of getting to that was, so when you come up with your preliminary budget, you need to do all of that to submit to PDE ahead of time. Say, here's what we need in order to go through the actual calculations for the exceptions. So, like I said, in the recent past, we have not gone through the preliminary budget process, just one, because more likely than not, we weren't going to exceed the Act 1 index. And secondly, it's a
big exercise.
It's a big exercise for a moderate amount of return and a possible return. You know, even if we did qualify for an exception of $100,000 to $200,000, the board would still have to agree that you know, at least 5 board members at, you know, at budget time would have to agree that that would be something that we'd want to explore to exceed the Act 1 index by that dollar amount.
Okay.
So we haven't gone through the preliminary budget process because truthfully, it doesn't seem to make the most amount of sense.
Not a good return on investment at time.
It's not. Now, this is higher than it was in the past. I think the last time we went through the exercise and came up with the estimate, it was roughly, say it was 45,000. I think that was a couple years ago when coming up with what our exceptions would be for the special ed expenses. And at that point, it was the same concept of, that's a good way to anger a lot of people for $40,000. We're going to keep an eye on it. We do the same thing every year to make sure that we're acting in the best interest and making sure that we're actually able to cover all of the expenditures. But at this point, I think that recommendation here would be to move forward with the opt-out resolution. 5% like I said, that's the adjusted Act 1. It will be slightly less with the STEB ratio built in, but that was roughly $20,000 decrease based on the net with the change of assessments.
So do you need us to say, yes, we'll go with the opt-out and do that when
As
it's
far as
time?
if there would be a recommendation from the committee, yeah, then we can make sure that we put that on the, I don't think it's going to be December, I think I have it planned for January.
Okay.
Unless you want to go more than 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to go 50% this year.
Second?
Quick, right?
Motion
I feel like this week. So I'm looking at the other two members and we're all shaking our head yes. So I'm assuming we're going to opt out. We're going to recommend to opt out.
And then, looking back, the state does have to put out basically all of the historics from that, and based on last year's, I think, 470 districts opted out, 30 decided to move forward. I think 20 actually were eligible.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're in good company, but at the same time, it's something that we do keep an eye on and have to kind of review on a regular basis to make sure we bring that to the committee's attention.
Yeah.
And the STEB is pretty close to 0 this year, so it's not really going to have, it's going to have a negligible effect on that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
The last time we looked at the STEB, that's what
Looks
you
like
were
about
saying.
$20,000. Once you add in the extra
The assessment
assessment changes,
Yeah.
it's not going to.
Yeah, I think on the.
So it's not like we have to raise it 2% just to get back to 0, like we've had to do in previous years.
Right.
But Act 1 is as high as it's been with the adjusted.
Yeah, I can't even remember last time it's ever
Right,
been that high.
right.
Yeah, that's really high.
So,
Okay. All right. So we'll deal with that in January with full board. Good.
Now, we need a future board update at some point in December, because we won't have a workshop before
Right.
this gets voted on.
Right.
So some
Right.
board of it, just as we
Right.
talked about it, that says is what it is. I mean, again, I don't think it's controversial.
Yeah.
It's, it'll be more well received, but a little something for 2 weeks or so, just when people see it, they'll have a reference. I mean, you guys will obviously be ready to talk about it if needed, but
Yeah.
that'll just help coming out because there's no workshop.
Yeah, without having the update from the committee at the
Yeah.
workshop.
That's true.
Put something together to get that in.
Okay. All right. Guess we're going to move on to transportation software.
And
Yep.
this is why Jan's here.
Well, I figured this was easiest if I just come out and then if you have questions
It
or,
certainly is.
yeah, then I'm here, I can answer. So I sent y'all an update that Safe Transport is finished as of June. They've decided not to move forward with it, which we were probably going to be moving in a different direction anyway, and they knew that. So I don't know if that had any leverage on that, but I had been shopping.
Okay.
because we didn't have an app, we didn't have the things we needed for our community, so I had been shopping before that. And what I found was going back to Tyler Technologies is probably our best solution. Number one, we all know, or somewhat know, the base programming. That was our VersaTrans a couple years back,
Okay.
prior to going to Safe Transport. We didn't like it so much on the server side, the way it worked, but we understood the way it worked. Their web-based program is what we're looking at now, which is Traversa. And that's definitely a step up from anything we had before. And it's a step up from what we have now. So we were happy to see that. We're happy to see the improvements they made with that system as well. But our router over at Christ knows that system. Christ's Director of Operations, Kelly Wood, also recommended we go with a program like that because she's worked with it for the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
So if there's help needed for them on the routing side of it, or the vehicle side of it, or whatever, she's there to help too.
Okay.
So that's the bonus in that. If we know the baseline of the old version and she knows the new version, and we'll all be trained in the new version, it comes with it, but we'll have the help there that we need as well. Because this transition is going to have to happen rather quickly in order to be ready for June. We need to route ESY, we need to route the summer programs. All of those things start routing in May.
Okay.
So we'll need to get it up and running, which implementation is 3 months.
Okay.
Which is why we're kind of rushing in and trying to get it in a December meeting. But the pieces we will have will be the cloud-based software.
Okay.
They actually do have an app for the phone that
Okay.
we can run it from our phones as admins.
Okay.
There are tablet versions they can use for drivers so that they can check their runs, maneuver their runs, and help us understand the run, you know, if they feel they need to make a change. On top of that, the GPS devices will run through them as well. So we'll continue to have that monitoring. And then that will coincide with the parent app. The parent app, the name has changed. I think it's on there as Ride 360. It changed to My K-12. It's the only difference. And they did that like 2 weeks ago and haven't put out publications yet. I know, Dan, I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you that.
Surprise.
You made mention of it.
Yeah,
Fix that right now.
yeah, so they're changing all their
Same with Martin
publications
Luther King
too.
Day and
Yep,
President's
and President's Day,
Yeah.
yeah. Put it
Yeah,
in your
we're all-
daily adoption.
No, that's all
care. It's all good.
The one thing I liked about their app that was a little different than some of the other companies too was we can control what the parent sees. So we don't have to give them the map that has the bus on the road and maybe stuck at a stop sign for a couple minutes and then have a parent, you know, get agita because they see the kids sitting, GPS timed out, and the bus is sitting in the middle of the road. Like, we didn't want that type of app. It makes people nervous. It's a little too much communication in my idea here.
30 seconds late.
Yeah, so it does have the automatics though. It has the automatic, your bus is late, it has the, and it's a parent setup, really. So if we give them the option to set it up, they can decide if they want a 5-minute warning, a 10-minute warning, a 1-stop warning, a 2-stop warning.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can actually set up their own notification systems to what they want. And provided the GPS is working well through the satellite service and there's no heavy snow or something to impede that, everything should, you know,
Flow
run
right
right
through.
through the system.
Okay.
So I gave them all of our base information, all of our vehicles, subs included, all the spares, and they gave us what their quote was, which I believe we had sent just the pricing and stuff like that, but Dan does have a copy of that as well. So we would have the 3 pieces,
Okay.
and we do know this app works. Because I
That's a
know
good
that's a
thing.
big question. We do know this app works.
Quick question. You mentioned about tablets for bus drivers. Do bus drivers currently have like tablets
No.
available to them or anything?
No, but they have the system available, so that if they would, if
So if
we
they
would
have
ever
their own
want to get to
tablet.
that point, we could. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So right now, our buses just have the radios.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, and they have GPS as well through Safe
Well,
Transport, yeah.
But I'm at-
And Safe Transport's GPSs will go back to them as soon as these are installed. Yeah, so they broke it down pretty realistic for us, so what the upfront cost is going to be higher, obviously, because of the startup, the installation, the training, all the man hours. I think they said the mapping is like 96 hours worth of time. That's what takes about the longest. They have to go through all the counties to get all the right information of the roads coming in, because we don't just service Montgomery County.
Right.
We service everyone around us. So they did say it's like 96 hours of mapping time included, and training time and all of that.
Because we have all the private schools and everything too, and the
Yeah.
Western Center and the,
Yeah.
well, I mean, that's one place, but
We have 37,
37, wow.
37 schools.
Okay,
Yeah.
I knew it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's small compared to some, but it's a lot. So they did break it down by what the GPS would cost us, and that's what we're looking at on this screen here is, I believe, the GPS. Yeah. So that tells you what, units will be installed, and then the upfront cost is on the left. That's the 50,000. And then the recurring is the 25.
Okay.
And that's just for the GPS system and to run the GPSs. Those are the most expensive pieces. And then the other packet there is it's student transportation powered by Traversa.
Okay.
And then the K-12, My Ride K-12. And that's what it would be, upfront cost is 18, recurring is 10 throughout the contract.
So it's 25 recurring and 10 recurring?
Mhm.
So it's 35 a year, and then plus 60.
Yeah, so it's 70, I think it was
I did that.
76 to start.
Yeah, I knew it was quick.
Yeah, 76 to start up, it would be 35, 36 to
Okay.
maintain, and we paid Safe Transport this year 36.
Yeah, I mean, so that's comparable to where we're paying right now. The big expense there on top of it is the startup.
Yep.
Now, when we moved to Safe Transport, the startup amount wasn't charged. So the relationship that we had with Safe Transport, we were only paying, they was essentially those recurring fees, the $36,000. So, I don't want it to sound like we were out of pocket for startup expenses
I was going to ask that.
2 or 3 years ago, and now out of pocket for startup expenses again. The relationship that we had with Safe Transport, essentially with Jen, was essentially helping them develop the software, in tandem with their developers, that we were only paying for the ongoing service, and there wasn't a startup fee associated with it. So from that sense, and I sat down with Jen and walked through it because I was a little floored by it myself, and I was sitting here going, wait, we're gonna be out of pocket again for a whole new setup, but that's not the case. This will be essentially the one setup that we've had from, since transitioning from Versatrans.
Yeah, and I don't know
4 years
how many
ago.
years we had Versatrans prior to that.
Yeah.
Like I said, the base system that we had here when I came, Safe Transport came above and beyond that by a million markers. What I was able to do on my side with Safe Transport was wonderful. It was amazing. Made my reporting so much easier. Everything was great. Not having that piece for the parents was a big deal. And then the lead developer on it, he left the company as well. So then the company, knowing full well I was out there looking, because I wasn't shy about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, get the app working. I'm a little Italian. Yeah, get the app working, or we're gonna have to look, because our families need that. It's something that would help us here too. Less phone calls, And I think between him leaving and me saying that, and them not being able to get it to work,
Right.
they knew they were unfortunately gonna have to end, so.
And they're just really ending, that's it? They're done?
That's it.
Okay.
Finishing that
So we're gonna start
program.
with this anyway.
Yeah, I mean, they're standing by us till June. I still, every other week, have a meeting with their tech support, because we set that up, back when.
Yep.
So we still do that, we make sure everything's working. If we catch a bug or whatever, they fix it for us. They're still updating, doing what they need to do till June. They've been very helpful,
Okay.
yeah.
So you'll run the two software programs simultaneously?
That's
with
the goal.
startup?
Well, we normally roll over April 1st.
Okay.
That way we can start summer school runs, start the new school year, we promote all the kids to their next buildings. Yeah, get everybody situated, figure out the walking distance for each building.
Okay,
who
so I
gets
don't want
bus-
your job is what
No.
I'm trying to tell you.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And then to transition to a new software and then to have a bridge be down.
Yes.
Yeah, we're gonna have a fun spring, so it'll be easy peasy.
like doing the pandemic all over again.
It is, that bridge is like doing the pandemic all over again.
Yes, sure is.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we know. We were at a meeting this morning about it. But so that's where, the timeline, I'm trying to, if we can get it in and get it approved and get it set up and get it going, then April 1st, maybe instead of starting this school year in the new system,
Mhm.
we roll over and have them help us do the rollover.
Right.
And get it all put in and be ready for summer camp, be ready for next school year and finish out Safe Transport this year.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at.
I get it. So just curiosity.
Yeah.
So if we still are using norms, does
Yes.
that count with them too? Or not? Or do they not do anything like that?
They don't use, they
They're not
won't
doing
use
our
ours.
daily runs.
No, they're not doing
Oh,
They're
that's
doing
true.
trips. I mean, that's not important to have that, I mean,
I just wondered.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
I don't know what they
What
use,
they
but
do.
yeah, we don't do their runs for them, so.
Okay,
They do a couple day runs for us, but
but nothing
nothing big. no.
crazy. Okay. All right, so you need us to be good with this and put it on December's meeting?
Mhm.
What do you guys think? I'm okay with it. I
I'm
mean, we
okay.
have to do it, we have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're sure it's gonna deal with everything you needed to deal with?
That's what I'm being told with everybody I've talked to. We did in the DeVasbo group, the Delaware Valley group, we did a whole thing on software, who's using what and who likes what. Everybody, I got a few bus boss people that said no, like, would you recommend? No, flat out no.
Okay.
I got a few TransFinder people, and I had looked at TransFinder years back. Super complicated. I don't even understand what a geocode or a geofence or a geotab is, and I'm in this business a long time.
Geocodes, tabs.
Yeah. No, the geocode around the student. You have to put
Oh,
geocode
okay.
around the student who sits on the roof of the
Yeah.
house.
There's geofencing too, where
Yeah, the
distance.
fence, like,
Oh.
too much systematics for us. There's schematics, we don't need that.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
they can't access it in Japan or China or someplace?
Yeah,
Oh, is that it?
maybe.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, probably.
okay. Well, it was a very schematic driven for us, like, I don't feel we need that here.
Okay.
That's like a big district, 120 public school system, TransFinder, so I didn't feel we needed. And of course, it'd be another, it's more money.
Another $100,000.
Yeah, it's a lot more money. So, but looking at the systems, and knowing that we had been with the VersaTrans, so we do know how to run that routing system and understand how the system works. I
Okay.
think that's the best option
Okay.
to get us transitioning during all of this.
Peg, you have any questions since you're here? Public? No? Okay.
Plus we're getting a discount from being a.
We are, we're getting a little
former
discount.
customer,
Oh, that's
too.
good.
For being a former customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
As long as you're satisfied with the program and it works.
Yes.
Once it's
That's-
installed.
And our parents will be satisfied with it. I think that'll be really important.
Yeah.
Just for good public relations.
Free job option, I guess.
Yes, it does.
Oh, it does.
It does. So in this system compared to some of the other systems, we can draw our own roads.
Oh, gee.
Oh,
And we can block off our own roads. We
That's
can,
wild.
yeah, it is. It's wild because we used to do it in the VersaTrans version. It was a little more difficult there. Here, it's basically drawing it on.
can we do like an emergency access road out of one of our buildings?
Yes, we
Yeah.
can, right through the wood
So what are
problem.
we worried about?
Yeah, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
The computer's gonna fix it for us.
Yeah, well, I mean, we hand have to do it, we hand have to draw it in, like, there's certain bridges we can't travel because of the weight.
Yeah.
There are certain curves we can't take with the 77s or the 72s,
Sure.
so we only run 48. So we can label those roads,
That's why.
48s and below. We can label no buses, just allow vans, we can cut off the bridge.
Wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So it definitely has a lot more capability than what we have now. Plus then the parent piece is gonna be pretty big.
That's
Yeah, once I'm
Yeah.
trained, I'll give you a.
Sure, I'll give you a-
All right.
So thank you for vetting and really given it some good thought, because, yeah, I mean, it's expensive to change over.
It
It's
is.
hard to change over anything.
It
It's
is.
like changing over an accounting system.
Yeah.
I hate QuickBooks. I don't know where to go without that, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're good with that committee?
Move forward.
Okay.
Absolutely moving forward.
Okay.
I'll have them do
All
the
right.
agreement for us to put in the
December, yep. Sounds good.
Thank
All right.
you.
No, thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
It's important, and yeah, I know our parents haven't been happy the last couple of years, for the most part, so. This gets them where they need to be, that makes me feel better too.
Yeah, me too.
Yep, I guess. All right, thank you again. All right, we'll put that on the agenda for December. All right, another one of my favorite subjects coming up, the Upper Hanover Authority tapping fees. Where are we?
So I had touched base with Mr. Kenwood. He had been in touch with the authority regarding the tapping fees, and so just as a reminder, related to the 24 EDUs that were at $35.58 per EDU. So the total amount on the tapping fee invoice that they had sent was $85,392. So essentially, we went through it. Doug has been in touch with Kyle. They discussed it. And essentially, there's not really much way out of
I tried to.
that fee.
Keith and I tried.
We did have the conversation with the authority, and they're going to take it back to their board regarding, because it was unexpected, if they would be able to defer the collection until the 23-24 budget year. So they're going to take that back to their board to see whether or not they'll defer the collection of it.
That would be nice.
I mean, at this point, they haven't collected it for a couple of years. I mean, I don't know what a few
Yeah,
more
it's
months
another
is,
year.
but
It's
that's
another
not
year.
a great mentality.
They're not missing
No.
out.
Jeez.
85,000.
So is that a one-time fee?
Yes.
Okay.
It's to get our water service to the
That was-
Ridgeview Middle
all right.
School.
That was essentially to tap into
I was
the
a little
system.
worried there.
That's not, no, that's not
Not
recurring.
recurring.
Recurring would just be the usage that we have at each of the buildings, but this was just for connecting to the system.
And have we been paying for 24 EDUs as far as I know when you get an EDU, there's a fee for each one. I know for sure on the sewer authority there is.
Yeah, and that's based on, like I said, the 24 EDUs that we have with them.
Even though we didn't pay for it.
Right.
Gotcha.
On a lighter side, the authority did waive the $25,000 fees at Hereford. So they must have been going back through their, I know we discussed it at facilities, but they were going back through their documents and checking everything, and then, came up and said, okay, well, in Hereford, you never paid the fees at that building, and we've been tapped into that for
1957.
a long time.
1957.
So they did agree that that was beyond the scope of what they should be going back and
It's a little too late
looking
now.
at. So the 25, they did decide to waive, but that 85 is still out there. We're going to owe it, and then we're just going to see what the
Will they
authority
take
goes
monthly
back.
payments for the rest of our lives?
I bet that could be part of
Maybe?
negotiation.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
wonder how Bradley's gonna write this up in the town country.
I think he already did. Pretty strong.
Very interesting.
I'm gonna pay $1,000 a year for the next 85 years.
Maybe Upper Hanover should put that to a payroll for season.
Yeah.
Status free.
Yes, they have.
Cash.
I know, I live in Upper Hanover. Yes, I have been there quite a few times.
No, and there's,
Can we expect any more of these unexpected tapping fees?
From
No.
what we can tell,
Okay.
there should be.
Once and done.
You're not planning on
I
building
cautiously
anything, are
say
you?
there
Shut
should
up.
be. There should
Okay, we should be good.
Unless we're
But I'm like,
actually
did
using.
we actually pay like for the high school when it was built? I'm like,
No, that's a different authority, isn't it? That's Red Hill.
They get
Water.
the back.
yeah.
I thought that through already.
And realistically, if we were to look at it, and with the mentality behind Hereford's waiver, theory that
That was way too long.
ideally they would do the same thing or consider doing the same thing for the high school if it were, in fact, in the same situation, given that the middle school is
It'd be like asking for
still
4 or
recently
5.
built. Yeah,
It's been there
exactly.
since what, 1928?
Red Hill Elementary, which isn't even in ours
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly, yeah.
Or Green Lane Elementary.
Yeah, okay, all right, well, hopefully.
All right, well, keep us,
$25 a month for the rest of our lives.
So when we hear back from the authority.
I said $1,000.
Oh, okay, yeah.
$1,000 a year for 85 years.
Okay, I'm good with that. We'll propose it. I'll go tell them about it. Okay, I appreciate the update on that. We don't like it. And next meeting is to be determined, so we will
I think it's just,
determine that next month.
yeah, depending on, with the reorg, if this time works, it still works for everyone, and it's the will of the committee, then kind of continue with this time. We're not scheduled for anything in December. I don't know that we need a December meeting, but
No.
unless everybody wants to get together and we can talk about STEP or anything else that you would like, but I don't know that at this point that we need a December meeting.
No, I don't think so.
Defer
I think
to-
we'll,
to you.
I think I'll let everyone have
If
a
we do,
Merry
it should be
Christmas
all
for that.
certain beverages.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, well, you're so easy here. All right, anyone else have anything else we should talk about before we adjourn?
No, and it was important for us to get through the budget timeline so that we could
Yes.
see everything coming down the pike and plan accordingly and
Yep.
and hit those markers.
Can you hit us with an email on that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank
I'll just send this, to the presentation,
Yeah.
which has it listed in there.
you. That would
Does
be
that work?
great. Yeah,
Okay.
that would be great.
Going forward for the budget, really, we don't have any huge expenditures other than our diesel projects and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But like as far as like technology, I think we've done a lot of investment in the past few years. Hopefully we won't have any large outlays there.
I don't promise anything from
Yeah.
Mr. Roth.
No, I know, he's a man on a mission, yeah, right, he's a man on a mission.
It'd be helpful if we maybe had a clue about salaries before we
That
start
would
the
be nice.
budget.
Yep, that would be nice.
Like I said,
Okay.
we can definitely start on salaries of non-bargaining
Right.
unit members.
Okay.
And we can definitely bring that to the committee and go through that. Other topics that are going to come up through the committee at the time are going to be through the feasibility study, when we're looking at capital reserve balances, when we're looking at financing and what it would look like and timing of financing. I've already been in touch with Jamie Doyle, BFF, essentially regarding any of the, what our capacity is for borrowing, and then what our timeline would look like as well. If we're talking about a 3-year, 5-year, 7-year, what would it take in order to try and raise funds and set funds aside, opposed to trying to borrow an entire amount of
Right.
money for any sort of renovation or larger construction project. So that those conversations, as they kind of go through facilities as well, are going to come up, are going to find themselves here in finance. In addition to those topics for budget, we'll probably have some additional conversations surrounding financing projects over the next X
Yeah.
amount of time.
Yeah, well, I guess, with a feasibility study
I
and
was
helping
saying,
us with 5
looking
and
at that
10-year plan.
feasibility study that I looked at in the update,
Yeah.
there's a lot of expenses that are being recommended.
Yeah.
So setting
Yeah.
aside as much as we
From
can.
KCBA,
Yeah,
Right.
from,
From
we
that,
haven't-
yeah.
We haven't had a chance to vet or really have
Right.
discussions, but
Yeah.
that's what they were paid to do, right? They
Right.
come in
yeah,
to present those ideas.
But some of the stuff, obviously the structural stuff was,
Yeah.
that they brought up is kind of important
yep.
to tackle.
So if we get a 5 and 10-year plan for facilities,
We can
then at
start
least we
putting
can bring
money
that to
aside.
finance and hopefully get a 5 to 10-year, whether it's borrowing, saving, which one, so.
Yeah, part of that, because Doug and I talked about it today in our meeting, he needs a rough dollar figure on to set the 5 or 10. I mean, they can do 5 or 10, and they'll do it with no dollars. That's not gonna help anyone when it's 10 million a year for the, like, they need to know, is it a million? Like, what are you planning on putting into your facilities over the course of a year to help gauge some of those things? Again, there'll be the mission critical things, but there'll be other things, and you're getting into that preventative maintenance versus emergency usage.
Well, I think they addressed that during the last facilities meeting, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so I think that,
Discussion on that.
it'll go cyclical between this group
Yep.
and facilities, and, because I asked Doug about that today in our meeting, and it was a little bit of the, chicken versus egg, like, okay, well, how much are we planning to put into that?
And how much you got.
Right, well, that's what it is, I mean,
Exactly.
if there was gonna be that level of commitment, and we talked about that here, budgeting, it's funny, because we know we're gonna put away, and I'll make up a number, $200,000 every year for turf,
Right.
because that's important. But that hasn't happened on the technology side, hasn't happened on that instructional side all the time, so
Yeah.
that will be a part of that conversation. So we need to think
Right.
about what you think is a realistic number to base that on.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like a curriculum review. I mean, I know that 10-year plan or 7-year plan from Kim, where 1 year it's 800,000, next year it's $1.2 million, because that's a big elementary piece.
Upgrade, yeah.
Right, so it goes from there.
We
There's a
need
lot of
to,
moving pieces.
Should we also consider discussing anything, setting aside anything for the tax school?
Yeah, those
Things
are-
are gonna start coming due down there also.
And then we're also
They
growing
haven't
our
come up with
membership
anything
here.
yet, but, it's something that we're gonna have to put away, just like the turf fields.
Yeah. Yikes.
Do you know how soon they might be able to give districts some
Clue? A
Not
clue.
until they start doing
some
budget
kind of
next year.
number? Okay. But I mean, by next year, they should.
Well, hopefully we'll have more discussions during the next year, during the next 6 months. I have a feeling we probably won't even get it done next year. You won't have any discussions in earnest, my opinion, until later in the year, after we've already done our own budgets, but it's something that we should consider, because really, we're gonna have to come up with a comprehensive plan down there in a sense.
Exactly.
Just like we're doing with the feasibility study here, and figure out what it would take. And Alan might be able to add to this or supplement what I'm saying, but we have to replicate what we're doing here down there. And then we have to figure out how the 3 districts are going to contribute to it. So that's a whole different level of discussion. But if we want to try and be proactive, we should start putting something away now.
Keith, I think you had mentioned that the intent is for that to go through the operating budget opposed to financing, or not?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. If we wanted to do financing, we would only want to do financing if there was something majorly wrong down there that required a project of scale, like $10 million all at once or something. Because they spent 20, I think it was last time, roughly 20 when we were down there last time, when they did the expansion and renovation of everything. But they came up with,
Do you
when
think
we're
they're on
talking about
this?
it over the past year,
Yeah,
we're
for
talking
that.
$1 million a year for just doing different systems as they age.
Yeah,
Right?
sure.
You got a lot of
Teach them
equipment
the
down
top
there too,
stuff.
that probably needs a lot of maintenance.
So they want to replace some of the equipment as they go along, and that's what they're going to try and do, keep doing it going forward.
Well, they have to
They would
keep
love to
current.
expand down there, the director down there would love to expand, but that's not going to happen, unfortunately, because none of the districts have the money to invest in something like that. Do you
The
want
most
to take?
recent conversation is a couple years ago, when, again, prior to my arrival, there was discussions when they opened up the 9th grade piece, because the enrollment was low. Well, now enrollment's booming. So now they're looking at that balance of the 4-year program, 9 through 12, versus what was there previously, the 10 through 12.
Right.
Because if you don't get in as a freshman, when you're a sophomore, there's no seats. If you think about a cohort model of people moving up, there's an occasional seat here or there. But, and it's once the curriculum is written for 3, we don't know what happened to that that freshman was an exploratory 2 or 3 clusters, and that went away somewhere all of a sudden.
did? They also do that?
You had the same exact
I
reaction
didn't
I
realize
had.
that it
Right,
was
because that's the way it was
so
sold. You go into 2 or 3
Yeah, you took a
clusters.
couple, you
Yeah.
picked a bunch of different ones
Yeah.
you were interested in.
Yeah,
and you-
somewhere that went away in
Explore.
there. So now they're in there for 4, and it's great. I mean, we've been promoting it. It's bursting at over 700, finding close to 800. in the AM and PM, but we're hearing that, including our own students, that the way the articles of agreement, I guess is the term, were written, there's no specific seats per person, like there's not like it's in each class, there's 30% this, 30% that, it's just and it's getting more competitive.
Yeah.
And some people aren't getting in, and that's expected, but it's how do you minimize that as best you can, I'm not sure. So there's all sorts of discussions going on down there.
Do we revert back to the old model?
It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, that,
Yeah,
seriously, that's what we have to
that.
consider at some point.
I hate to do
You know,
that.
just that you can accommodate the demand. Or as I said, you missed it, I was talking about this a little bit during the policy meeting, you know, that, you know, it is competitive to get in there, and it'd be nice if we could offer some of the programs they have down here, down there, here, you know, like the welding, which we're doing in the X shop or whatever lab.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not gonna come with the same industry credentials
No.
that they're
No.
coming from.
But you know, I'm glad you said that, because that reminded me, Quakertown is doing credentialing for some of the things in technical trades, you know, and I was trying to find out more information about that. I've seen that in the paper
I saw that.
twice in the town and country about how they're getting credentialing for some of their kids there, and it's like, I don't think they have a VOTEC like we do,
They
and they're
do.
doing that, but they're doing that at the regular high school? or
Yeah,
something?
I don't
I
know.
don't know. So that's something I'll try and investigate.
Okay.
Yeah, they have a Upper Bucks Tech, I think it's them, Penn Ridge, and Palisades, I believe.
That
Like
makes
three that
sense.
goes
Yeah,
together.
it sounded like this was happening, you know, credentialing and it's just not for it's for nursing and things like that also. I have to try and find out more information about it.
Okay, good, that would help. All right, anybody have anything else? If not, I will call
Voice
for
motion to adjourn?
happy Thanksgiving and an adjournment, and thank you both. All in favor, aye. All right, well, everyone have a good Thanksgiving.
Yes, thank you.
Yep,
15
Yeah.
minutes were reclaimed.
yay. Because we didn't talk about this step ratio.